This episode is rated M for mature audiences. The views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect those of the PFC Entertainment Network or any of the affiliates that make this show possible.
This is the Pure Fury Creations Entertainment Network.
The champ is here! Lift up the man! Give me a hell yeah! What the rock is cooking? To be the man, you have to be the man! Big Papa Pump! Did you hook up? Holler! In the image! Rest in peace. Raw is Jericho! What you gonna do when Hulkamania destroys you?
I am the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be.
What? Yes! Yes!
Welcome to Pro Wrestling Rewind on the PFC Entertainment Network. And we welcome you to an impromptu live stream edition of the relaunch of Pro Wrestling Rewind here on the PFC Entertainment Network, along with the Hall of Famer, the Frozen franchise, Ryan Frostbite Kidwell. I'm Jason Klaus. We certainly appreciate you joining us here on a Saturday night. Ryan, great to have you not here just on the show, but officially as a part of the PFC Entertainment Network as the co-host of Pro Wrestling Rewind. Of course, this stems from over 25 years that you and I have known each other,
Yes.
specifically in the wrestling space. But it's that friendship, it's that brotherhood, it's that camaraderie that you and I have built over the years, and it was on full display in an
Yep.
impromptu live event occurrence
Yep.
up at Lake during IWE's event there a few months back. But here we are. We're doing this relaunch. It's great to have you on board, my friend.
Longtime fan of the network. Glad to be a part of it now.
Well, we're going to be doing something a little fun here tonight. We are, once again, a very impromptu live stream edition of the show. And this is why we say that you need to hit the like
Fan
button.
of the network. Glad to be a part of it now. That was me.
What the f- is happening right now?
Got too many things on at the same time.
Listen, I feel you, brother. I feel you. Like, I had that problem as we were going into the signature and the rating and all that. I'm like, oh, I need to turn my volumes down. But,
Yep.
because we're so excited to jump on the air. Now, truth be told, this is our second time trying to record this episode. And so we're doing this as a test in some regards with the live stream portion of this, but this will also drop on the RSS feeds this coming Friday, and it's going to serve as kind of a precursor to the season premiere of the Fatal 4-Way on ONTV Friday night, September the 4th. Very much looking forward to that. You want to talk about an overhaul? That particular program is going to be getting a new painted coat, as they say in the podcast business. But hey, man, we're going to be doing something fun here tonight, Ryan, and this is kind of your contribution to this week's episode from a topic standpoint. Professional wrestling, and I'm sure you'll agree with me. Professional wrestling is a very individualized and subjective form of sport and or entertainment.
Very much.
You ask any 10 people, who's your favorite wrestler of all time? You're probably going to get at least 4 or 5 different answers. And, you can't sit there and be like, Well, no, you're wrong. Well, how is that wrong when I'm telling you what my favorite wrestler is? Who gives a rat's ass if you don't think Duke the Dumpster Drosy was a main event caliber star? That's my shout out to the Pope, Brandon Brownson. He's a big Duke the Dumpster fan there, Ryan. I don't know if you're aware of that or not, but
I've heard the Pope talk about him a number of times.
so we had to send out a little rub there, if you will, for old Pope. Really missed that guy. But, seriously, though, you having any kind of conversations with around the world of pro wrestling nowadays can get pretty volatile. Whereas back in the day, we were like our own fraternity, man. It was like, our own brotherhood and sisterhood. Like we were invested in this form of sports entertainment that unless you understood it, you either you got it or you didn't, right? I mean, you either understood what it was and it was something that you latched onto, but outside of that bubble, we were looked upon as nerds, as geeks, as you're just a wrestling fan, this, that, and the other thing. And then they started to compare our fandom to that of NASCAR. And and I'm over here like, and they were saying it like it was an insult. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Say what you want about NASCAR. Like, I'm not necessarily a fan of it, but I respect the shit out of it. And I mean, look what they're doing. They're getting they were getting $1 million sponsorship deals before anybody else was. Oh, yeah. It was just being presented in a different form, i.e., all over their vehicles. But, it's weird to have any kind of conversations, and especially when you have a list. And that's what we're going to break down here on this episode of Pro Wrestling Rewind. So let me ask you this before we do tackle the list. How do you approach a conversation when inevitably you're going to be expressing your opinion and without a shadow of a doubt, it's going to be in contrast to that of who you're speaking with? Like, is that a concentrated effort for you, or do you just open mouth and whatever comes out, that's what it is?
No, typically when you first get the first talk about wrestling, you always get that's fake.
Yeah.
So I always have to shoot them down with, I'm glad you watched the Avengers for the documentary. So, screw you. If you want to piss all over something because it's fake, stop going to watch TV, stop going to the movies, because what the hell are you comparing it to? It's entertainment. It's what we're here for.
Oh, but along those lines, you use that dreaded F word, man. Like, it triggers me.
Oh, I hate it.
It's now, to give it a little bit of backstory and context for those who may not be in the loop. Ryan and I worked together primarily as opponents, more often than not, in the Michigan Wrestling Organization back in the early 2000s. So both of us really beat the piss out of our bodies during our careers in the independent wrestling space. And so, I mean, it's not like we're just sitting behind a couple of microphones and just running our mouth off because we think we sound cute and entertaining. No, there's kind of a few decades of experience that fuels what we're bringing to the table here from inside the ring.
Yeah, okay? Nothing like being stretched in a walls of Jericho while being in a Steiner recliner at the same time.
No.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Hey, all for the sake of entertainment, right? But I say that to say, we have a unique perspective on the wrestling business, not just as fans, but from people that were involved in it. Like, we know what the bumps and the bruises feel like, because here's the thing, you use Avengers as an example. The big difference between what we did and what they're doing under the banners of WWE, AEW, anybody that's a professional wrestler, they do not have stunt doubles to take the bumps.
No.
They don't get a pit. Roman Reigns does not get hoisted up in a body slam and then somebody yells cut while they gently put him down and pick up a stunt double, yells action, then does the slam. These are real humans taking real bumps on a very uncomfortable surface.
And
ring
to put it more pathetically, they have a job to do just like everybody else. They don't get health insurance. However, the health insurance that they have to compete is stuntman insurance. The same people that do all the stunts in the movies, that's the insurance that they have to pay for to do their job.
Yeah, great point. Great point. So, I mean, we say all this to say, while the matches are predetermined, the movement and actions that take place from bell to bell are very, very real. That's just the way it is, man. I mean, it's way more real than people will give it the proper respect, unless you're able to look at it as it is. You know, the whole fake thing, like,
It's a documentary.
That's a shit that really triggers me. But we're going to lighten things up here this week, because we're going to look at a list of the 10 dumbest gimmicks in professional wrestling history. And man, we could spend hours. We could really launch our own whole podcast on the dumbest gimmicks in pro wrestling history. But we're not here for that. We're going to consolidate that into a list of 10 and then some honorable mentions. Now, when you say dumbest wrestling gimmicks of all time, we're talking about the characters that we infamously remember for one way or another, if they're remembered at all. Like, you have to go way back into the time machine, way back into the recesses of your young wrestling fan brain to be like, oh my God, I forgot about that guy. And now I see why I forgot about that guy, i.e. TL Hopper. Okay. There's just, you go through it. I mean, you had some awesome gimmicks like The Undertaker. And then you had some real stinkers, like the ones that we're going to talk about here on this list here. And we're going to start things off this week, Mr. Kidwell, with the wrestling magician that was supposed to be something special. I give you Fantasia.
No. Not a damn magician.
Made only one appearance on WWE television in the summer of 1995. He did make a house show appearance after this, but it wasn't very long after that he poofed right in the middle of the air, become an obscurity, and he's now become an answer to a trivia question. You know what I mean? But Fantasio, yeah, I mean, had a cool look to him, and the concept would have been cool for a couple of years. Nothing that we would talk about for any length of time that would mean anything. But in an era of the new generation in the World Wrestling Federation at this time, you would think that something like this, as outlandish, would have really stood out here, Ryan? Why do you think Fantasio didn't work? And it's not just because he tried to set the backstage area on fire after his TV debut.
For 45 years, I thought he was a mime. No. Magician never came across when I was a kid watching him. I remember seeing him. No, I thought he was a mime, and I thought it was horrible. He didn't talk. He didn't talk. He had his face all painted up. The wrestling mime. He didn't make any sound.
No, sir, he was a magician. Maybe the magic trick out of his hands is what threw you off.
He definitely disappeared quick.
He really did. Yeah, he sure did. Yeah, he didn't last long at all, but he's still remembered as one of those guys like, maybe a different time. If he had come in maybe a year or two before that and they gave him an actual push, they could have done something with him. But when you're looking at the new generation of the WWF era, that 93 to 96, going into 97, at the dawn of the Attitude Era, it was like they were like literally a box of gimmicks, as Bruce Pritchard would famously say. It's like, let's pull out whatever obscure piece of real uniforms or something like that, and we're going to give it to this guy. You brought Tony Anthony in from ECW, and you turned him into a wrestling plumber, like straight up, stereotypical ass crack hanging out, stained up wife beater, nasty plunger, and you presented this guy, and we're supposed to believe that he's going to be the WWF champion. Give me a break. Okay.
Look at Just Incredible. Aldo Montoya.
Oh, man. I forgot about old Jock Face.
Yeah. Walks around with a jock strap on his head. And he wasn't even American anymore.
The Portuguese man of war.
Exactly.
Damn it. I am so pissed I forgot about it because that was a good one. Oh, my God. All right. Moving on. Tim Williams is going to appreciate this next one. Tim, obviously, old, long-time wrestling fan. That's what I love about Tim. His and my fandoms, it goes back to the same point in time. But he was way more focused on Jim Crockett Promotions to my WWF. And it's not that we were not paying attention to both, but, our fandom lied more heavily on one side or the other. Big JCP fan is Tim Williams. I could sit here and talk NWA wrestling with him for hours on end. The dude knows his stuff. And if you follow the history of the National Wrestling Alliance, and then ultimately what would become World Championship Wrestling once Ted Turner bought the promotion from Jim Crockett, there was a lot of turnaround in the head office at WCW. The guys that were positioned to be the senior management of that part of Time Warner. You have your CNN, you have the Atlanta Braves, you have, all these things that Turner owned. WCW was like a subsidiary to, the entire Time Warner umbrella. So with that, and before the rise to power of Eric Bischoff, there was a gentleman named Jim Herd. And Jim Herd is a guy that worked for Ted Turner, worked for Time Warner. Very smart businessman. I'm not going to take anything away from him, but didn't know dick about the wrestling business. So the fact that he was put in this position was eyebrow raising to begin with.
He was head of a pizza chain, wasn't he?
Yes, sir, he was.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, he
The
was a
pizza-
very successful president of a good pizza chain.
You know, apparently,
Horrible wrestling manager.
well, I mean, apparently, if you can run a pizza restaurant, that necessitates enough knowledge to run a professional wrestling business. And then he decides he wants to start dipping his finger into the creative. And he made some real questionable decisions here. One of which would ultimately result in Ric Flair leaving WCW to go to the WWF in the summer of 1991. And that was Jim Herd's doing.
Yes.
So, but maybe not as egregious as the departure of Ric Flair. We got to see the debut of some pretty colorful characters in WCW, especially if you watched the WCW Saturday night program at 6:05 on TBS, the Superstation. Yeah, I could have done that voiceover. That was a good, wasn't it?
Working on that, weren't you?
Oh my God. Ryan, I give you the ding dongs.
Oh, good Lord.
The worst, possibly the worst tag team in the history of professional wrestling. If not the worst, they're certainly in the conversation and on a lot of Mount Rushmores.
Yeah.
This was just a terrible gimmick. I don't even really know what they were supposed to be. You know,
I mean, other than the bells on their chest, people are not thinking bells when they hear ding dongs.
Tim Sheridan is joining us in the live chat, host of the Sports Reel podcast, which you see every Tuesday night live here on the PFC Entertainment Network. Tim or Ryan, I know you're very familiar with Mr. Sheridan. Just one of the class acts, man.
Absolutely.
All right. Any thoughts on the ding dongs? I can't even say that shit with a straight face.
Yeah, I think that's all it is. It's just a teenage genital humor. There's the ding dongs.
You know, here's the other thing. Let me give you another example of Mr. Herd's creative genius that didn't make the list, only because I couldn't find a graphic for him. He wanted a tag team that I don't know. While I appreciate his passion for tag teams, Jesus Christ, when you've got the ding dongs here and then you've got this team I'm about to tell you about, you're like, what the fuck is going on here? Ryan, this guy wanted to put prosthetic humps on these guys' shoulders as kind of a tribute to Quasimodo. You know, the famous character from the Hunchback of
Yeah.
Notre Dame. He wanted a tag team with prosthetic humps on their back so that they could never be pinned. They would go down as the only undefeated tag team in pro wrestling history.
And
that was a real thing.
Till you rolled them all the way up on their hump, and then they'd kind of be like a turtle on their shell and couldn't get up.
I don't know, man, but just like the thought of it cringes me out. You know, I just like, come on, what are you thinking? Why? Who put you in charge? I mean,
Ted,
who let you be head of or part of creative? I bet Dusty Rhodes was just was he there or was it?
I don't think he was there.
91. He would have just come back. He would have come back from the WWF.
Okay. Well, I mean, they put the man in polka dots.
But he made it work.
He did.
Nobody else could have, but Dusty Rhodes did. Just saying.
But he thought it was a rib on him.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, so was Virgil. The name Virgil for Ted DiBiase's bodyguard. That was a rib on Dusty Rhodes, whose real name was Virgil Runnels.
Yeah.
And Vincent, played by the same guy, Mike Jones, was a rib on, obviously, Vince McMahon when he came to WCW.
As was the Voodoo Kin Mafia in TNA. Did I lose you? I think there you are.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what happened. We have a little bit of a residual storm rolling through here right now, and like shit started flickering a little bit. So I was like, oh man. So yeah, I think we're still on the air. Yep, looks like it.
Yeah.
All right, great news. All right, moving on with the countdown. Let's talk about resilience and perseverance when you talk about guys that have worked for Vince McMahon, because I can't think of too many guys, Ryan, that have been given chance after chance after chance because they saw something special in him. He just kept getting saddled with bullshit gimmicks and characters. Glenn Jacobs is one of those guys. And, you know, when you see a guy that size, 6'6", 320 some pounds, and a pretty physically imposing dude, like he was in shape. He was a big dude. And his time in Smoky Mountain got him on the radar of The Undertaker and Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard. They would bring him in 1995, the start of some less than awesome gimmicks before he would become Kane in 1997. But before there was the Big Red Machine, we had Jerry the King Lawler's personal evil dentist. I give you Isaac Yankem, DDS. The concept of the evil dentist, and I mean, bless this guy's heart, he did everything he could. As somebody that was watching this at the time in real time, I'm like, okay, this is getting a little stupid. Even the alignment with Jerry Lawler during his feud with Bret Hitman Hart in 1995. Well, I mean, it started in 93, but by the time Isaac Yankem showed up, you know, it was 95, and it's like, bro, what are we doing here? Like, how long did they think this guy was going to last? You know, even the music and the video wall that just was a close up on his nasty ass teeth. Like, it was just, I don't know, man. Like, you saw potential, and we would see him later on as fake Diesel. When they tried to resurrect the Diesel and Razor Ramon characters after they had split for WCW, it was just bad, man. Just bad. But he did get a pay-per-view match with Bret Hart, so not a lot of guys can say that.
And it wasn't bad. He was good. He was just saddled with crap gimmicks. Obviously, Taker knew that when he wrestled him back in Smoky Mountain as the Unabomb.
Mm-hmm.
And then sequentially brought him up to WWE. But yeah, I mean, let's face it, Bret Hart could wrestle a broom or a mop and still get over with the crowd. He got the dentist over, but that was it. Glenn Jacobs could not keep the character going because it was going nowhere. After his feud with Bret, what was there for him to do? He wasn't going to go anywhere.
No, for sure. It was very, what could you have done? And that's what made, I remember thinking that same thing back then, Ryan. It's like, all right, if he gets past Bret Hart, which he's not going to, like Bret, especially at that time, like Bret was the guy.
Yeah.
They weren't going to let him, job out to a one-dimensional gimmick like this. He was specifically brought in for a one and done, in my view, because what was next? Another showdown with the Undertaker, just as another gimmick. Thank God that wasn't the case. And there was only so much you were going to do with that. But thank God they came up with the concept of Kane, because I mean, even then, that was a one and done thing. Evil, the forgotten brother of the Undertaker. You get your match with the Undertaker. What more could you do? Well, to the credit of Glenn Jacobs and how he was able to expand his role, man, look at the career he's had. He's in the Hall of Fame now.
Well, and actually, credit to Bruce for not letting go of the Kane character. Actually, Undertaker in his very first match was introduced as Kane the Undertaker.
I remember that.
And that's where it all stemmed from. And when Vince said drop Kane, Bruce is just like, no, we've got a story here. Kept pushing it. They didn't have somebody for it. Finally, Glenn got his hands on it and he ran with it. Thank God.
Ran with it straight to the top of the business, too. Multiple time world champion, tag team champion. Like, the guy's done it all in WWE. So, I mean, his story is a rare exception where he got saddled with a shit gimmick, but was able to stick through it until he found something that worked, and rode the shit out of that lightning bolt. And he's great. He's among the all-time great masked men.
Yeah, and not everybody on this list is going to be a crap wrestler. It's just a crap gimmick list. There are people on this list that I mean, come on. There are guys that made a name for themselves and then got a crap gimmick.
That's true.
Or
minorities on this list.
Very much so. Very much so. I will agree with that.
You want to talk about a minority among the list? That brings us to number 7 on this list. Listen, when you hear pro wrestling, in the mid 2000s, 2006, as Degeneration X is starting to do their reunion thing, and they need a rival to fight on behalf of the McMahons, Vince and Shane. I don't know, man. Like, to me, it just seems like it's going to be a perfect match when you put them against a group of wrestling cheerleaders known as the Spirit Squad. Oh my God, dude. I could not with these motherfuckers, if I can be honest with you. The only one that really made a name for himself was who we would eventually know as Dolph Ziggler. Nick Nemeth, the current TNA World Heavyweight Champion. I know Kenny Dykstra was part of this group. In this graphic, he is positioned on the right side, the top right. That is Kenny Dykstra. He did have some potential, man, but his ego that's what doomed him. Whereas Nick Nemeth, Dolph Ziggler, you want to talk about a guy that went through some shit during his career, but look where he's at now. He won the world title in WWE, but he was primarily known as a mid-card guy, Intercontinental Champion, U.S. Champion. So I'm glad to see that he's getting the opportunity in TNA to really become that main event star that he does have the talent to be. I was not necessarily a fan of his, but I have so much respect for what he does in the ring, for his approach to the business, and now he's in a position to where he can give back. Whatever happened to the rest of the Spirit Squad, I don't know, nor do I care. But man, you want to talk about the cream rising to the top? Very much the case here.
He is the only one, I believe, who is still wrestling. And the only other one that is still associated with wrestling is Dykstra, who is still with WWE as a backstage producer.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, the Miz brought the other three back one time when he was facing off against Dolph.
Yeah.
And after that, we haven't seen or heard from them since, and thank God.
For real.
I think the only graphic that suits them perfect is when they're on stage with McMahon and the manure drops on them.
Facts. That
Yes.
is fact. Yeah, that's a shitty poll to be. But listen, when you look at real bad gimmicks, specifically, a lot of this is so focused on the new generation of the WWF in the mid '90s. There, man, a lot of people pick this one, and when you pick a winner, Ryan, among bad gimmicks, Bastion Booger.
Not the Friar.
Poor Mike Shaw, man. Poor Mike Shaw. This guy had, you want to talk about the heart of a real, a guy that wanted it so bad. Yeah. And when he first broke in, he went through the territories in the southern part of the country, and he was a monster. And then they bring him up to WCW. He becomes Norman the Lunatic, and some moderately entertaining segments and storylines, specifically with his work with Kevin Sullivan at that time. And so when he came to the WWF during the new generation, I didn't know what to expect, especially when we started seeing vignettes. First, he was Friar Ferguson.
Okay.
The wrestling monk. And it's like, what are we doing? Well, and that lasted a couple months. But then you get this monstrosity. You get Bastion Booger. Like, his biggest TV win was over a very young Owen Hart. On an episode of WWF Superstars. But I mean, just God dang, man, they could have done so much more with Mike Shaw than Bastion Booger. What's your favorite Bastion Booger match? Exactly.
If I had to pick, the only one I would have to say is the Survivor Series match.
Yeah,
it was him and Ludwig Borga, who, yeah, that went far.
That dude, that's we're going to do a countdown of the worst humans in wrestling history, and he's going to be probably at the number 2, and we can all pretty much guess who number 1 would be, but that's for a future episode. But
right,
yeah.
You know, the worst part about that is, even as forgettable as the two of those characters are, I can't even remember who the other 2 members on their team were.
That does say something.
But they fought off against Luger, Undertaker, and the Steiner brothers.
Yeah. Yep.
So, I mean, there is that. You remember the character.
For sure. Yeah, man. I mean, as bad as it was, I mean, we're sitting here talking about them on a Saturday night. You know what I mean? Like, here we are. That was the first half of the list. So let's run, before we get to 5 through 1, let's talk about for a moment some honorable mentions of the worst gimmicks in pro wrestling history. We have the wrestling hockey player, the Goon, the aforementioned TL Hopper, Arachnaman, who was a very shitty knockoff of Spider-Man. Instead of the red and blue, Ryan, he had purple and yellow. So, yeah. Then we had Big Josh, who we know as in the WWF as Doink the Clown, the original Doink the Clown.
Yeah.
Pope Brandon Brownson's favorite wrestler, Duke the Dumpster Drosay, Fake Diesel, Fake Razor Ramon. Speaking of Fake Diesel, that brings us to another shitty gimmick for Kevin Nash in Oz. We had Rikishi as the Sultan in the late 90s before making the transition. That 70s guy gimmick by Mike Awesome in 2000 WCW. Enough said. Beaver Cleavage walked off a live interview set on a Monday Night Raw. Who else was on here? They kicked me off. Oh, yeah, the Yeti, who abused Hulk Hogan at Halloween Havoc in a way that I don't even like talking about. And then Brutus Beefcake's many failed incarnations in WCW. Of course, you had Zodiac, you had Booty Man, you had the Butcher, you had, well, it's Ed Leslie. He just kind of sucks.
Yeah.
All right, moving on here.
And then you left off Glacier. How can you forget Glacier?
You know, that guy, you want to talk about, no, he sucked. He just sucked.
The man had $1 million gimmick. They couldn't do anything with it.
Fucked it right up. I mean, I
can't believe they paid $1 million for that.
I know.
You wonder why they're out of business. We need somebody. Let's get Sub-Zero for Mortal Kombat.
But we'll call him Glacier.
I think the first time he popped out, what the fuck is this shit?
Well, that's what I said when Terry Taylor made his WWF debut in 1988 as the Red Rooster. You're talking, this is what pissed me off about this. Terry Taylor was considered in a very short list of guys who could possibly beat Ric Flair for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship in the early to mid 1980s. This guy was as sound as anybody that was stepping in the ring. You want to see a classic? Go watch a Terry Taylor versus Arn Anderson match. Mm-hmm. Like, these two are putting on a clinic. He was brought in as part of the Bobby Heenan family, and you're thinking, oh my God, they're going to do something amazing with the Red Rooster. No, they turned him into the Red Rooster, including music that had a rooster crowing at the start of it. Like, how am I supposed to take this seriously? Now, we follow the territories. We knew about Terry Taylor before all of this. We saw him in Mid-South. We saw him in the NWA fighting for the World Television Championship. We saw him in the UWF, where he was on course to become a world title contender against the one-man gang, against Steve Williams, against some of the biggest names in the business at that point. And then they bring him in and turn him into a fucking chicken. Are you kidding me right now?
The original Shark Boy.
True
yeah,
story.
I mean, Terry Taylor,
look at this.
Yes, it's horrible. He is known throughout wrestling. Doesn't matter where you come from, what era you're in. He is the man that trains the pros. And hey, he's the Red Rooster. He crows. There's Terry. What do you do with that?
And behind the scenes, one of the most polarizing people in a long time. Like, he has been a narc. He has been a producer. He has been trusted. He has been villainized. He's been across the board. I mean, to this day, he maintains a role behind the scenes in WWE, which is insane to me. But, because he was leaking shit to Dave Meltzer and Wade Keller and, all the guys running the dirt sheets at the time. And whether he was working for Vince or working for Bischoff, like the dude was a leak. You know what I mean? Like people had their knees broken over this shit back in the day. And he's over there making, business deals with Dave Meltzer of all people, just so Meltzer would write favorably about him in that rag that he called a newsletter. And it's like, I don't know, man. I have a weird fandom for Terry Taylor. Like I saw his best, but then I've seen him at his worst, and it's hard for one not to overshadow the other. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
All right, that gives us to number 4 here on the list of
your favorite.
Oh my God. Pro wrestling is about the spectacle. Pro wrestling is about those larger than life humans who portray these larger than life gimmicks or characters. And Vince McMahon built an entire world around the larger than life. Those spectacles, those attractions that you brought out every once in a while that you knew would pop a number, whether it be TV ratings or ticket revenue at the box office. This is where guys like Andre the Giant were utilized, guys like Kamala, guys like Big John Studd. So as we moved into the 90s, Vince's resident giant was The Undertaker at 6'10", 328 pounds. And he needed somebody to be a viable opponent for The Undertaker. So he brings in, fresh from an incredible, air quotations being used, run in WCW as Elegante, he brings in the 7'7", 479-pound Giant Gonzalez. And if you are watching this on Spotify, if you're watching this on YouTube, Facebook, or something, you will notice that, yes, that is not an AI picture. That is a man who is wearing an airbrushed jumpsuit with full fur attached to it. Like he's supposed to be, I don't know, Bigfoot or some sort of mythical creature, but this guy shows up at the 1993 Royal Rumble, eliminating The Undertaker, starting a feud that produces one of the worst matches in WrestleMania history. So they're going to go ahead and follow that up with one of the worst matches in SummerSlam history, one that I happened to have the pleasure of being there live in person because it was at the Palace of Auburn Hills when there was a Palace of Auburn Hills. But God damn it, man. Giant Gonzalez. This is too big, right? Like he just couldn't get his body to do what you need to do with it in a pro wrestling environment. Do you think that's what it is, Ryan? Was he just too big? Was his joints just not able to hold up to the stress?
Well,
what do you think the issue was with old Jorge there?
I don't think you can narrow it down. I mean, he had 2 blown out knees from his basketball career.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he transitioned to wrestling. But I mean, he really had no in-ring anything. And I mean, if you want to compare that, I mean, you got the Great Khali. But the Great Khali could actually do something. He actually had wrestling matches. But both of them together had kind of the same mannerism. I mean, you hit them, they just fall because they can't move correctly because of their body. I think just between his wheels not working and his height, he could not do it, and he had no wrestling knowledge. So El Gigante, Giant Gonzalez, half Bigfoot, half Mantar's father. Figured you'd like that one.
Well, it's funny that you say that because
It's a segue, and I fell off those one time.
coming in at number 3 is the aforementioned half man, half beast Mantar. Competed in the WWF, of course, this again during the New Generation era. And he did wear this giant buffalo bison, whatever the fuck this thing is, wore this helmet to the ring, but could not get into the ring with it. And as soon you would think with something as awkward as that thing must have been, you would have done a trial run before the cameras were on, before people were sitting in the building to see whether or not you could step into the ring or over the top rope with this thing on. No, they wanted to wait until the cameras were live and he was on in front of a live crowd trying to spent a stupid amount of time trying to figure out how to get in the ring with this thing on, only to take the thing off and drop it at ringside. The gimmick was over before the bell sounded.
Only one man has pulled off getting in the ring with that helmet on, and that was Vader.
Mm-hmm.
But at least his helmet was cool looking. Shot out smoke, everything else. He made a spectacle of it. He got in the ring, took it off in the ring. Unlike Mantar, whatever the hell they want to call him. Who looked like a bumbling oaf stumbling to the ring because I don't think he could see in that thing.
I don't think he could either.
Trying to get in the ring, not able to see how to get to the ring other than walk a straight path because you're on a rampway. And now he's bumbling between the rope. Just take the helmet. You're done. It's over. Gonzalez's kid.
You wouldn't see him very, very much after this on television, although he was a fixture on the house show circuit, oftentimes getting beat by the likes of the 1, 2, 3 Kid, Bob Sparkplug Holly, the guys you're like, really? Even a young Hunter Hearst Helmsley. They tried to do something between Mantar and Helmsley, because Helmsley came in as the British or the Greenwich snob, and Mantar was the man beast or what have you. So they were trying. They did a series of vignettes where Helmsley was trying to sophisticate Mantar, and on paper it sounded funny. I can understand why they did it, but it just was not executed very good at all. I just wasn't for me.
Give him Barry Horowitz.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, at least he got a pay-per-view win, just saying.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about one of the most infamous debuts in not just wrestling history, well, specifically WCW history. Let me take you back to what was this, 1993, I believe it was.
I think so.
And we were anticipating the arrival of the next big super fan favorite for Team Good Guy in WCW that included the likes of Sting and the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, as they prepared to go to battle against Vader and Sid Vicious. So we are anticipating this incredible arrival, but the set that this segment took place failed poor Fred Ottman. On the bottom of this makeshift wall was a 2x4 that Mr. Ottman unfortunately could not see in his spray-painted Stormtrooper helmet, hence him crashing through the wall onto his face in front of the whole world. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only, the Shockmaster.
And the only part that made that worse is the camera was on Sid when he turned his back, and you hear him in Ric Flair's microphone going, "Oh shit, he fell."
Yeah. Can't happen. I mean, it can't go wrong if it's on live television.
Right. The worst part about that whole thing is that wasn't the first time that they had done that rehearsal. And rumor, because there's conflicting stories, that 2x4 that he tripped over was not there on the first run through. And he just walked through the wall and everything was fine. Well, when they made the next wall for him to walk through on live TV, they put that board in for bracing to hold it up because he almost knocked the entire wall over when he walked through it. They didn't tell him about that, tripped on the board, and now we have wrestling history.
For the wrong reason. At least Fred has a cool sense of humor about it. You know what I mean? Even WWE released a series of action figures a couple of years ago, and one of them was a Shockmaster action figure, but they positioned the toy in the box where he was upside down and falling. And I thought, man, what a dick move. But at the same time, again, here we are in August of 2026 on a Saturday night, and we're sitting here talking about something that happened back in 1993.
I will say, with their mobile super card game where you can collect little cards of wrestling figures from today and years past, they made a Shockmaster card. And you just see him with the Stormtrooper helmet on the card. And when you get two cards together and pro them, it creates a little graphic. Well, when you pro'd the Shockmaster, he fell through the wall. Kind of falls off the card a little bit.
That's fun.
I started laughing when I pro'd the card. That was pretty funny.
I can appreciate that. I can appreciate that to the depths of my soul.
Yeah.
And I mean, and look, the guy's banking. You know what I mean? He's still getting royalties from that. In some regard, you've got to believe he signed a Legends deal with WWE. He's doing all the Comic-Cons and things of this nature. He's going to be okay.
But I mean, even without that horrible gimmick, he was a successful wrestler as Typhoon and Tugboat.
Yeah.
So again, good wrestler, bad gimmick. So
yeah, for sure. You know, when you're rubbing elbows with Hulk Hogan as Tugboat of all things, I don't know, man. On paper, I could justify Hulk Hogan and Hillbilly Jim as friends and tag team partners, but when you put the immortal Hulk Hogan next to a guy called Tugboat, and I'm supposed to believe that even back then, like we're talking 1990, like I'm like, I don't care how much rub he gets from Hogan, I'm not getting behind this guy. I liked him better as Typhoon.
Yeah, I was going to say
the team with Earthquake.
You know my opinion of Hogan, and as soon as I saw Tugboat, it was an instant. Nope, character's dead. But as soon as he became Typhoon and he turned, Fred was number one in my book. Hey, I actually like the Natural Disasters. That is one of my favorite tag teams.
I did too. I hated them at the time because I was supposed to. Well, because they were feuding with my all-time favorite tag team.
Probably why I liked them so much.
Yeah, because you're an asshole.
Well, I hate the good guys.
No, listen, I get it. It took me a long time to come around. But when John Cena got big and my son started rooting for John Cena, I became my father and started rooting for the heels. Because when I was a kid, I was all about Hulkamania. My dad was a Macho Man guy. He loved the Macho Man.
Roddy Piper.
And, yeah. So when my son started watching wrestling and got real into Cena and really into Rey Mysterio, like I'm rooting for the Kurt Angles. I'm rooting, for the Umagas. I'm rooting for everybody other than John Cena.
Yep.
So I can appreciate that. Now, That's going to bring us to number one. And number one, if I can be honest with you, I don't know what I expected on November the 22nd, 1990, where in the Hartford Civic Center in Hartford, Connecticut, shout out to my good buddy Vinny, who I saw was watching. He lives in Connecticut. My co-host on Ball Game here on the PFC Entertainment Network. Yeah, well, Vinny, your old neck of the woods is home to a infamous piece of pro wrestling history. It was the site of the 1990 Survivor Series, and when people say the 1990s Survivor Series, they often will recall that is the night that we saw the debut of The Undertaker. Well, that's not the only debut we saw on that night, because for 6 weeks leading up to November 22 at the Survivor Series, a giant egg was starting to show up in WWF television tapings with the Survivor Series logo all over it and a bunch of question marks. What was going to hatch out of this giant egg at the Survivor Series? We expect... Yeah, well, for Mark Calloway, that's exactly what he thought it was. But thankfully for him, he pulled the Undertaker card, so not the Eggman card. But old Hector Guerrero didn't have as much luck, as he would debut as the worst gimmick in wrestling history, the biggest letdown in WWF history, from my estimation, the Gobbledygooker.
Could you have picked a sadder picture for the Gobbledygooker? I mean,
no, I couldn't.
He looks like he came out of the egg and he's like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this.
Well, that's exactly what old Hector was saying. Because, I mean, come on, dude. This was designed to be the official mascot of the Survivor Series, much like you have for the San Diego Chicken in Major League Baseball, or the Philly Fanatic, or for us here in Detroit, it's Paws, the Tiger. But this guy was supposed to be the mascot to keep the kids engaged in TV timeouts at live events and stuff like that. And I mean, aside from this debut at the Survivor Series to a couple of appearances after the fact, he would pop up during the Gimmick Battle Royal at WrestleMania 17 in 2001. Made a couple appearances on Monday Night Raw since then, but Jesus Christ, dude. It makes you wonder. Makes me wonder. Okay, and if I'm wondering this, you got to know. Like, I'm really questioning this. But what the fuck were they smoking in Greenwich when they were sitting around Vince's table coming up with this piece of shit creative?
I still want to know how they got Hector into the costume.
Hector needed a payday, if we can be honest with you.
But still, I mean, the man was a talented wrestler and they dress him up like a turkey.
Listen, if they were going to pay you $75,000.
I'm putting the suit on. Yes, I get that, but still.
That's what happened.
I still want to. I'm Hector Guerrero. I still want to have matches with the company, though.
Well, hey, listen. When you're presenting an idea like that, you have to make a split decision. Like, without a shadow of a doubt, you are either selling your soul to the devil, i.e. Vince McMahon, or you're walking away from your biggest payday that you probably have ever seen in your career.
I'm sure he was thinking, I'll do this and get my foot in the door and then move on to something else. That didn't happen.
No.
Well, I mean, he did move on. It was just to the unemployment line.
Yeah, unfortunately. And that sucks. You know what I mean? Because he's a Guerrero.
Exactly.
And Guerrero is one of those wrestling royalty families. The problem is, Ryan, and I'm sure you will agree with me on this, the Guerrero name, the Guerrero family name, it's not held in as high regard as it should be. I mean, you talk about the Guerreros, you know, Eddie is obviously the most popular, the most famous. Chavo Jr. is probably under him, and then Chavo Sr. under that. Hector Guerrero was I mean, you want to talk about Mexican legends?
Oh yeah.
Hector was right there, but here in America and in other parts of the world, he doesn't get the just due and the respect that he deserves.
Well, I'm sure more so probably down in southern Texas. They got the two Texas, the territory. We do the territory talks one of these days. Texas was actually two different territories run by
Fritz.
Yeah, Fritz and the guy that trained Shawn Michaels.
Jose Lothario.
Jose. Jose would constantly have the Guerreros up there wrestling in his territory. So I'm sure they were a big name in southern Texas. But yeah, I mean, they should be a bigger name throughout the states, other than what they were. But yeah, Hector by far probably was the most talented of all the Guerreros. Eddie was the most entertaining, but yeah, I have to agree with you.
Yeah, it's just, you know, again, you can have all the talent in the world. You take a Hector Guerrero, you take a Terry Taylor, you take Matt Bourne. You know, Matt Bourne, the guy that we knew as Big Josh and the original Doink the Clown, like that dude was as accomplished as anybody. You know, there's other guys that we didn't talk about on here. I mean, because we could spend, like I said, we could launch a whole podcast on bad gimmicks. Look at Wayne Bloom and Mike Enos. You know, they were a great team in the AWA, but they were not allowed to be that team when they came to the WWF as the Beverly Brothers. The same guys, just different colored tights and different names and stuff, but they weren't allowed to be what brought them to the dance because it wasn't a Vince McMahon creation, which sucks. But you know, that's just, as we start to wind this down and we're engaging in this conversation, and that's what's going to be the premise of Pro Wrestling Rewind moving forward, is we're going to be looking at these missed opportunities, guys that were not able to capture that lightning in the bottle, but could have, or had it in the palm of their hands and pissed it away. We're going to be looking at the good, the bad, the ugly, the history of professional wrestling, and not just WWF, but I mean, make no mistake, man. The WWF, WWE has been for a long time head and shoulders the front runner in this industry. So there is going to be a lot of WWF talk on here, WWE discussion, but we're also going to be looking at the territories. We're also going to be looking at Jim Crockett Promotions and World Championship Wrestling, and even more current stuff like TNA and things of this nature, because that's one thing about wrestling history, Ryan. Every day a new page is written.
That's right. Can't keep us down.
And if you have any ideas of topics that you would like us to discuss, we would love to hear them. Drop us a comment, a message over on the Pro Wrestling Rewind Facebook page or the PFC Entertainment Network. And don't forget to tune in this Tuesday night live with Tim Sheridan, Eric Mendel, and myself as we break down the world of sports. We're getting ready to ramp up with the end of the MLB season. The playoff picture is starting to finally take shape in some regards. We're going to be looking at that. The NFL season is about ready to kick off. The Lions played here earlier this afternoon in preseason action. So, I mean, this is a very pivotal time if you're a sports fan. We're going to be breaking it all down this Tuesday night live on the PFC Entertainment Network beginning at 6 p.m. Be sure to check out our locals for all the latest news and information. For Ryan Frostbite Kidwell, I'm Jason Klaus. Thank you. Go out, be awesome to yourselves and to each other. We'll see you next time right here on the Pro Wrestling Rewind.